workshop. I'm not presiding, it's Gerard from the leader who is doing that. The idea of the workshop was raised by Eblida and Maple because, well, out of a general analysis of the fact we live in a global society today, there's the digital shift, cultural diversity, fragmentation. And all these changes really have a big impact on public libraries. And also, and that's one of the things I want to talk to you about, is libraries are also challenged by these changes. And the idea of the workshop is to have a discussion on a European level on the repositioning of public libraries. And we want to do this on a European level, just to make sure that our discussions are really integrated in the process of development and implementation of the European agendas, the EU agendas. So that's the idea of the workshop, and you already received the document in preparation of the conference. That's why I'm not going to give a resume of that document. That would be too boring, I think. What I want to do is to give a more or less personal overview of the changes we can see in public libraries and the changes we can observe on the discussions about the future of public libraries. And I think it really is, I hope, it complements the speech of Dr. Jacobs. The first change I want to talk to you about is the change of focus by librarians the past 10, 20 years. The context of that change, the change of focus, is by the fact that public libraries are challenged by competitors on the leisure market. And as soon as internet, the web, Google arrived, that pressure only augmented. At the same time, there was a pressure of the public, of the people which really joined the public library. They had a certain idea of what is a well-run service, and they think public libraries should be a well-run service. And when that service isn't that up-to-date, they quit. So the impact was huge. And what we observed, specifically in our own environment here in Flanders and in Belgium, is that public librarians and libraries took a 180 degrees turning of focus, where they used to be oriented very strongly on the collection and all the internal and administrative processes. Now today they are really focused on the public and its preferences and needs, and they take that knowledge of the public into their working with collections, with the services they are providing. And I'm referring explicitly to Paul Whitney, which I heard speaking on a conference this summer, and he was a librarian of Vancouver for 36 years. He retired, I think, or retires this year, and he said, which was remarkable for me, that in his 36-year career as working in public for public libraries, that was the most important change in his profession. The focus on the collection turning to the focus on the use. And he also said a few other things which will be repeated in my presentation. So, a change of focus by public libraries. And the second change is a change that comes along with that change that focus on the public. It's a change of perspective. The perspective the public librarians themselves are taking on their own institution. Traditionally, it's very much public librarians are not very good in putting themselves on the agenda. A lot of people already mentioned it. And what they are developing now, and it is driven by all kinds of initiatives, and it runs also by the legislation, that is, they, instead of looking as insiders outside to the public or outside to policymakers, they develop a perspective from their stakeholders. They are developing a perspective from the outside onto their own organization, and that really is needed. It is really important to do that as a librarian or as people working for libraries, to take that top view, because that's what you need when you want to discuss the position or the repositioning of public libraries in our society. And I'll just go very shortly into three aspects. It's not a comprehensive overview, just three aspects. First of all, librarians are discovering the importance of their place. They are very well located in the center of the communities, and together with the fact that they acknowledge the fact that they are important physical places where people can meet, they're discovering also more and more that public libraries in a rural area is not the same as in a neighborhood area, and is not the same as big public libraries in the city centers, which is a very important part of the discussions, and I'm glad Professor Rivale will be talking about that tomorrow in the workshop. At the same time, focusing and acknowledging the fact that their location is so important, public libraries discover what it means to be a public space, and often, and that's not only a discussion in Belgium, but also in the Netherlands and in the other countries, where I meet people from who we can discuss this with, is that what is a public space, and how does it operate, and what's the importance of it, and how can a public library, because it is a place where you can meet persons in a face-to-face relationship, how can public librarians help people to use it as a meeting place and to build a social network around themselves and around the collections of public library. So this public space, or this place, the importance of the place, is very important when we start talking with politicians, and especially with local politicians. The digital space, of course, maybe I shouldn't go into it too long, but I'm using almost the same words, I think, as Jill and public librarians discovered and acknowledge also the fact that there have to be the users. Where are the users? Well, a lot of them are in the digital space. So public librarians discover social media, Facebook, Flickr, YouTube, etc. You need that high visibility for your users, because more and more also users will be web servers. And luckily enough for us in Flanders, it is not only the young and beautiful librarians who are participating in this kind of environment. This is a librarian of a very small community in Flanders who is organizing this big quiz, his library quiz, on YouTube. Last part is the networks, of course, and well, maybe I should, it's not written, but it's easy to say it. Google has taken over the role of public libraries for most people. Obviously, the public library is not a comprehensive library anymore. Has it ever been that? So, public librarians are discovering the fact that they are just a local hub, and their unique position is being so local. A local hub in several kinds of networks, not one network, not the one network of the public library sector, but several networks. I'm very glad of the references Jill made to the possibilities of the public library in the network. So it are networks concerning collections, metadata, web presence. Also got education, learning, we heard it already, or organizing cultural activities. And in that discussion, developing that perspective as just one hub, a local hub in a plethora of networks, the public librarians and also people working for public librarians are developing a language and an idea of what the specific contribution of public librarians can be in those networks. So it's a way, and you need that kind of perspective to put yourself on the agenda of the partners of public libraries. The third change I want to talk to you about is, well, it might be called a recent discussion, it might be a discussion which is just starting up. It depends on your own experiences and the things you want to stress. And it has to do with the social value of public libraries. And that's a difficult discussion and a difficult debate. And it has been in the presentation so far. Why is it so difficult? Because it means, and that's a conclusion, a personal conclusion, but a conclusion I share with a lot of people. Public librarians used to excel in working with material, in media, with books, and they should start excelling in working with people, building networks, face-to-face relationships. And I'd like to give you some context information, just to make my point clear how important that could be. And I'm using that book just to give you, to make it possible for you to start discussing also things in your own environment. May I just ask a short question? Who has already read that book? I see very, very few people. The other ones are keeping silent. It's an important book, and I'll give you a short summary, so you don't maybe have to read it. What is the point of the authors, Wilkinson and Bibnet? This is the world. You don't have to be able to read all the country names. This is the world, our global world. And what you see is that on the x-axis you see the national income per person, so you see how rich is a country. At the other axis it says life expectancy. So what you see is that the richer a country, the longer you can live, which is a very good thing. This is the group of the rich countries. And what you see there is that there is no one-to-one relationship between being the richest country and being the country where people live the longest. And that's the central point of the authors. If you look, I'm repeating the same data, if you look how rich a country is and you relate it to an index of health and social problems, and it's an index that the authors of the book composed, then you see there is no relationship between how worse the health and social problems are in society and how rich the society is within the group of the rich society. But if you take as a x-axis the income inequality of a country, you see there is a very strong relationship between the health and social problems and the inequality of countries. So the richer a country is, says nothing about the health and social problems, but the more unequal a country is, the worse the social and health problems get. And they are developing a mass of figures, and they give me those presentations to use in this in my contribution to the conference. The same goes for social mobility. The less equal a country is, the lower the social mobility in that country. We're talking about the rich countries only. Which is very important also for the EU agendas. The more unequal country is, the less innovative the country is, measured by patents per million inhabitants. Or for recycling, for example. The higher the inequality in a country, the less people are tending to recycle. So very important. Let's go back to the area of public libraries and education, etc. And I had to copy this from the book. The authors couldn't deliver me the graphs anymore. If you look, again, rich countries in income inequality, and you measure the average of math and literacy scores, you see there is a relationship. So the more equal countries are, the higher the literacy scores, the math scores. And please keep in mind the position of those four countries. You've got Finland, which is more equal than Belgium. Belgium is more equal than the UK. And UK is more equal than the USA. Because those four countries are coming back in the next graph. So this is a very strong relationship. Now, if you measure those four countries and you say, okay, the literacy score of adults in a survey, and you relate it not to the amount of inequality, but you relate it to the educational level of the parents of those adults, then you've got a very interesting graph, I think. What you see is that the more equal a country is, Finland is more equal than Belgium, etc., the higher the literacy scores of people overall, and the higher the literacy scores than the other countries. And we know from the other information in the book that USA, in fact, is the richest country. Well, it is not the richest country that delivers the highest scores. And which is very important, and this is interesting for public libraries, and thinking about public libraries, I think, that when you look at the education of the parents of adults, you see that in the richest country of this graph, the adults whose parents had the highest education have a lower literacy rate or score than the same adults in more equal countries. And that's another major point the authors want to make. In a more unequal country, everybody suffers of inequality. Also the rich and the well-educated people suffer from the fact that their society is an unequal society. And this is, I think, a very interesting graph to think and to discuss, I hope, tomorrow, on the situation of public libraries. Because public libraries are supposed, and that's an important fact of their professional attitude, they are supposed to be institutions for everybody. So they are doing good for all people in society. And by doing that, what they want to do is to move the grade upwards. So everybody is benefiting from the work of public libraries. And by moving the grade upwards, probably, if they are successful, the people on the bottom of the graph will benefit more than people in the top region of the graph. But at the same time, one of the problems, and it has been in the presentations and discussion and the contributions so far, people at the bottom of society, or people who suffer most of inequality, they need a special treatment. You have to walk the extra mile to reach them, to get them into the public library. So probably the public libraries have to organize a new position and discuss a new position in society. They have to find a new balance between organizing itself as a public service for the public at large, and at the same time creating social value by becoming an organization to target on inclusiveness, to make society more inclusive, and probably by giving extra attention to those who can benefit the most. So this is my resume of the several changes we saw. Maybe you agree on this, maybe you don't agree. In any case, I'm looking forward for a happy discussion. And those who don't recognize this picture, tonight in the Comic Center you can find out who this is and what his name is.